Climate change is the greatest existential threat to our planet. Greenhouse gas emission from the burning of fossil fuel is to blame. The result is rising global temperature, and the consequence is massive crop and fishery collapse, the disappearance of thousands of species, and the entire communities becoming uninhabitable. These outcomes may be avoided still, but climate change is already causing suffering and death. But what do we do about it? From the weather and the environment to agriculture, animals and humans, everything is impacted by climate change. As global temperatures climb, widespread shifts in weather systems occur, making events like drought, hurricanes and floods more intense and more unpredictable. Extreme weather events that may have hit just once in the lifetimes of our grandparents are becoming more common in ours. Raging wildfires and supercharged storms, not just events happening thousands of kilometers away. The effects of climate change can be felt today outside our windows. But what do we understand about climate change? A survey of over 1,000 Nigerian adults finds 23 in 100 Nigerians do not know about it. The others understand climate change to be anything from change in weather patterns to global warming and natural disasters. And for those who understand climate change, 98% of them say yes, and that spreads across gender, age groups, and geopolitical zones across the country. And still, 9 in 10 adults report that Nigeria itself is currently experiencing climate change. In the north of the country, wind erosion sweeps away houses and farms and intensifies the effect of deforestation, drought, overgrazing, and desertification. In the Middle Belt region of Nigeria, gully erosion and flooding are forcing people to leave their ancestral homes to settle in internally displaced people's camps that scatter across the region. In the southern region, flash and seasonal flooding caused by climate change are ruining cities. In August 2011, the populous city of Ibadan witnessed historic flooding caused by an all-time high of 185.5 mm rainfall and indiscriminate dumping of solid waste on water channels. This eventually left over 1,000 people dead and destroyed properties worth millions of naira. Every year, rising sea levels in Lagos almost always leads to seasonal flooding in the Lekki, Ikoyi, Ekpe, and some parts of the mainland areas in the state. Its impact on the country's most populous city are far-reaching. As business owners and residents count their loss, the major roads are not left unaffected, as they are worn in many places, and the poorly constructed asphalts on the road are stripped to the red earth beneath, while residents seek refuge in designated camps. In 2021, Jigawa, Bauchi, and Adamawa states in the northeast region of Nigeria were also inundated by flood, which evicted over 380 households and left more than 20 people dead. This year, Nigeria's meteorological agency has a forecast of flooding across 24 states. Flooding in the country in 2022 has displaced 1.4 million people, according to the National Emergency Agency. This year, across the country, over 515,794 people have been impacted by the devastating floods, with 205,338 displaced, 170 lives lost, and significant damage to 76,667 houses and over 106,089 hectares of farmlands. Nigerians report witnessing some of the telltale signs of climate change, according to the survey. 63% of respondents report annual temperature in their local areas getting warmer over the past 5 years. With regards to rainfall, it has decreased in local areas for 61% of respondents over the past 5 years, and for 20%, it varies from year to year than it has in the past. The floods forecast by the country's meteorological agency and reported in the news have over the past 5 years affected 32% of the respondents, and 52% of the respondents also say any adverse changes in the environment would have some effect on their livelihood. Their reasons reveal their close connection between climate change and life on Earth. For 25% of the respondents, their reason is that flooding resulting from climate change will destroy farms, lands, and properties. For 21%, it is negative farm produce and productivity. For 13%, it is about heavy rainfall and flooding restricting movement. For 13%, it is about changes causing illness. 9% points to effect on businesses, income, and cost of living. The remaining combined 19% mention food scarcity, personal discomfort, inaccessible roads, and dirty environments. According to the United Nations, Nigeria has the highest rate of deforestation in the world, losing 3.7% of its forest every year. It is also home to Africa's largest mangrove forest, but only 6% is protected. Its multiple ecological zones have given rise to a wide range of livelihoods, agricultural practices, and commodities, all of which are affected by climate change and shock. Rising sea levels threaten southern cities such as Lagos and coastal areas, increasing vulnerability to flooding and waterborne disease. Drought and reduced rainfall combined with rising air temperatures inhibits the country's hydropower systems and hinder agricultural production and fishing, reducing food security and negatively impacting health and nutrition. The energy sector, deforestation, and change in land use are the greatest contributors to Nigeria's greenhouse gas emissions, and that is what many Nigerians understand as global warming. For 32% of respondents, it is change in weather conditions and a general increase in temperature for 10%. For others, it is anything from depletion of ozone layer to natural disasters. Yet, 51% of respondents report not knowing anything about it. The news is not looking good. Already, 89% report that climate change has affected agriculture. 84% specifically say climate change has affected their crop yield. 7 in 10 says climate change has negatively affected the communities they live in. And 49% have had or know someone who has had to relocate because of climate change related issues. The unconditional target of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, also known as the Paris Agreement, is to reduce greenhouse gas emission by 20% by 2030, and then a conditional target of 47% greenhouse gas emission reduction below 2018 levels, contingent on international support. In 2021, Nigeria updated nationally determined contribution to include reducing emission from the waste sector for the first time. This covers water resources sector and other nature-based solutions. The National Council on Climate Change, established in 2021 by the Nigerian Climate Change Act, works to mainstream climate change actions and achieve low greenhouse gas objectives. Nigeria's National Adaptation Plan Framework 2020 articulates Nigeria's adaptation objectives, principles that guide these adaptation actions, and facilitates the implementation of priority adaptation activities. The Nigeria Energy Transition Plan outlines Nigeria's commitment to carbon neutrality by 2060 across 5 key sectors: power, cooking, oil and gas, transport, and industry. Are Nigerians concerned about global warming? 75% report they are concerned, but only 41% say they are confident in the ability of the government to address challenges of climate change. And how can this be achieved? The largest proportions propose afforestation and creation of laws to regulate pollution. Next is stopping unregulated bush burning and industrial pollution. At a tie of 2% are respondents who favor cleaning up the environment, doing what needs to be done, and praying to God. These are all actions in small pockets around the country. But around the world, getting a grip on climate change is about coordinated action and how to enhance it.